We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Glory UGA podcast, where on today's show, I'm going to talk some Georgia football recruiting as the Dogs are awaiting a massive impending decision from the number one quarterback in the 2026 class, which of course is Jared Curtis out of the Nashville area. So I will be breaking down that recruitment for you guys and giving you my final prediction on whether it will be the Dogs or the Ducks who ultimately win the Jared Curtis sweepstakes. We'll get to that, guys. Got a ton of content for you today. But first things first, if you haven't already and you're a diehard Georgia fan, do yourself a solid and go ahead and subscribe to this channel right now, because everything that we do here on the Glory UGA podcast is designed for you, all you diehard Georgia fans. There's a ton of content out there for casuals, but we want to produce something for all you guys. This is a channel of, for, and by the diehard fans, so make sure to subscribe right now. Like, comment, get that conversation started, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Jared Curtis, on all our episodes out there. Love to hear from you guys. I'll do my very best to respond to each and every one of you out there. So thank you in advance for that. And of course, check out the Glory UGA podcast, wherever you get your pods, for full episodes of our show that you guys will find that you like what we've got out there for you guys. All right, let's dive into this conversation and talk some Georgia football recruiting. With spring practice now out of the way, with the spring transfer portal not over, it's closed, guys can still commit, but it's certainly cooling down. Recruiting is about to take center stage, guys. College football recruiting is about to be a hot button topic here over the next couple of months. It really goes back to a couple years ago. They changed the recruiting rules. You used to only be able to take official visits like during the season. A lot of the schools up north complained about that because when players would come to their campuses, it's cold, it's dreary, it's not enticing. Hey, let these guys come when it's nicer weather, right, in the summer. And so they changed that rule, and it's kind of sped up the recruiting process. It certainly accelerated things because now players can take summer official visits. And so the summer months have become huge in the world of college football recruiting. You usually now, the past couple of years, you're seeing more and more of the biggest names out there in every cycle coming off the board in June, in July, in August, and not waiting that old school traditional signing day that I still love and cherish. It's no more. I remember the signing days of the Blind Pig fondly. If you know, you know. But you're seeing a lot of guys like Jared Curtis, number one quarterback in the country, commit earlier and earlier. So the Dogs are getting a head start on all that. We're about to hit football recruiting season here, and we are getting a head start on that with what I think could be the biggest recruiting win in the Kirby Smart era, if indeed the Dogs do end up landing Jared Curtis on Monday. Let's go back and look at this, guys. I know when I say this could potentially be the biggest recruiting win in Georgia football history, that's a big statement. And that might be a bit of hyperbole, certainly, okay? But if you look at the Kirby Smart era, obviously year in, year out, we win a lot of big recruiting battles. We land a lot of the biggest names out there. You got Ellis Robinson IV, a couple years back, was the number 2 prospect in the country behind Jeremiah Smith. The number 2 cornerback, number 2 prospect overall. Nolan Smith back in the day was a number 1 overall recruit. Michael Williams, who's now in the NFL, right? Got drafted top number 11, so top 15. He was number 6 overall back in the day. Malachi Starks, number 7. Keely Ringo was actually, believe it or not, number 4 overall when he came out of high school. Justin Fields back in 2018 was the number 2 overall player according to the On3 industry ranking. So Georgia's not new to landing big-time 5-star guys, the top players in the country. That's not new to Georgia. But given the position that Jared Curtis plays and the overwhelming importance of that position on any team in the world of college football, and you combine that with his immense ability, guys, I'm telling you, this dude is the real deal. If you don't know much about his game, if you haven't watched his tape, if you're not familiar with this guy brings to the table, we've broken this down before, but I'll just really quickly lay this out here for you. You got a guy that has insane arm talent and arm strength. His ability to push the ball vertically down the field on a line, like a frozen rope, coupled with his ability to layer the football into tight spaces, it's unbelievable, man, for a guy at this level, at this stage in his development. He's also got this ability that's become increasingly important in all levels of football these years. I mean, certainly you see what the Kansas City Chiefs do with Patrick Mahomes. The ability to throw off platform, the ability to make something out of nothing, right? The ability to throw from different arm angles when guys are bearing down you. Jared Curtis does that at a very, very high level. This guy is the real deal, okay? I believe that he is the real deal. So if you couple the fact that he has this immense potential, along with the fact that he plays the quarterback position and the importance of the quarterback position, I do think you can make an argument that this is one of the, potentially, if we land him, it would be one of the, if not the biggest recruiting win in Georgia football history. Now, the ultimate tale will be told down the line, right? So if we do land him, we'll see what he does once he's here in Athens. Who knows, guys? Like, maybe he won't even finish his career here in Athens. If you go back and look at the recruiting class, what was it, the 2023 recruiting class? I think there's only one of the top quarterbacks that's still with his original team. Now, Nico Iamaleava left Tennessee, and he has fled out west to UCLA. I think Arch Manning is the only one of those top quarterbacks that's still at his original school. So things change. But if he commits to Georgia and he goes on to do what I think he could ultimately end up doing at Georgia, you can look back in 5, 6, 7 years and say, man, like that might have been the biggest recruiting win in Georgia history. Time will tell. Time will tell, but I don't think it's insane to suggest that possibility at least exists. So yeah, I think you can make a strong argument that this would be a massive, if not the biggest recruiting win in the Kirby Smart era. And for those of you who are entirely unfamiliar with Jared Curtis, if this is the first time you're hearing this guy's name, which is probably not the case, but maybe there's someone out there just now finding out who this guy is, and you're kind of locking in on recruiting right now. Or maybe there's some of you who've heard the name, you know he's a highly recruited guy, but you don't know the full story behind his recruitment. Let me just catch you up very, very quickly here, and then I'll get to my prediction on what's actually going to happen when he commits next week. So he was the Mr. Football runner-up in the state of Tennessee, he's a Nashville kid, as a freshman. Okay, that kind of kickstarted his recruitment. That caught a lot of eyes. Mr. Football runner-up as a freshman in high school, you don't see that happen very often. That's the first sign this guy might be different, might be special. So he jumped on the radar there. Since then, Georgia's been recruiting this guy very, very hard, right? Talented guy within our kind of immediate proximity in the Southeast here. So we worked hard, and we did earn his commitment back in March of last year, right? So go back to March of 2024, more than a year ago. But in October of 2024, he did back off that commitment. He decommitted from Georgia, and everyone's like, oh my God, this sucks. There goes another big-time quarterback. We just can't land that big quarterback seemingly in recent years, right? Land some good players, but maybe not that one guy. But he also made it very clear at the time when he decommitted that this was not him saying that Georgia's out of the picture, that there's no chance Georgia has to regain his commitment. He was very open saying that he's still very strongly considering Georgia. He just wants to open his options. And it makes sense, guys. NIL, you want to see the offers that are out there. You want to see what's available to you. It's a big decision. You want to make sure you are making the right decision. So he made it clear that he was still going to allow Georgia to recruit him. And we have not let up. We have kept on this guy as hard as we ever had when he first jumped back on the radar. You go back to January of this year, he named a top 6. Of course, Georgia was part of that. Then a couple weeks later, he announced his 4 official visits, which was going to be Georgia, Oregon, Auburn, and South Carolina. And then just a couple weeks after that, he's like, yeah, nah, not so much. No Auburn, no South Carolina. I'm going to cut my list down to 2. He named 2 finalists, which are still the Georgia Bulldogs and the Oregon Ducks. And since that time, the momentum has kind of swung back and forth between Georgia and Oregon. Both teams at different points have felt really good about their positions. It's kind of gone back and forth, which is what happens when you're talking about a big boy recruitment, the caliber of Jared Curtis being the number 1 quarterback in the country. So here we are now, just a few days out from his decision, and we're about to find out. We're about to find out ultimately where this guy is going to go. And when we get this close to a major decision, which, by the way, it's Monday, the 5th of May, Cinco de Mayo, we'll find out. Everyone's going to have a good time on Cinco de Mayo, but you'll also find out, hopefully, an even better time if we find out that Jared Curtis commits to the G. So when we get this close to a major prediction like this, naturally, I have a lot of you reach out and want my thoughts on this, ask for like a prediction. I have people DMing me, emailing me, asking me these things. So I figured, if you want to know, I would indulge you, all you recruiting sickos out there, with my thoughts, and we'll call it a prediction. We'll call it a prediction. But before I give you that prediction, let me throw out the obligatory disclaimer here. I know those of you who've been with the podcast for a long time, you know me, you've heard me say this before, but we're getting new listeners every single episode. So I want to make sure if you're new to the show, you hear me say this. I am not a recruiting writer, okay? I don't follow recruiting professionally. I've been running this podcast for a decade, but I'm not a recruiting writer. I don't call, what I mean by that is I don't call these guys. I don't build relationships with them. I don't know Jared Curtis personally. I don't have sources within his camp. I don't have any of that, okay? What I do is I follow it extremely closely. I call you guys recruiting sickos. I'm a recruiting sicko. I'm a college football junkie, and that includes all aspects of college football, including recruiting. Okay, that's kind of who I am. That's how I roll. So I follow it very, very closely. I follow the work of guys like Steve Wiltfong and Chad Simmons who do a fantastic job of actually calling these guys, building sources, building relationships with these players. They've got the inside scoop when it comes to these recruitment. So I follow those guys very closely. You read between the lines, you follow the recruitment, you read the tea leaves, all that kind of stuff. And I do also have the benefit of living in Athens. I'm an Athens local, and I know a few people who are privy to these things in and around the program. And what I can tell you is that the pros out there, the Wiltfongs of the world, the Chad Simmons of the world, as of this week, and that this could change, but as of right now, the most recent word has fluctuated a lot in recent weeks and months. But the most recent word is both those guys feel like Georgia is slightly trending here. All right, this is a big boy recruitment, guys. Both these schools have ace recruiters. Both these schools are heavily financed. Of course, absolutely. So it wouldn't surprise me if it is Oregon. But the pros out there, as of right now, are saying this is, like, if they had to project right now, they would slightly lean towards Georgia. I can also tell you that the folks in Butts-Mehre, they don't know yet. Like, no, they have not been told by the Curtis camp he's coming to Georgia. That I have not been told that. I have not heard that at all. What I can tell you is that there's a confidence that they have done everything they could possibly do in this recruitment. They feel good about it. They feel like they put their best foot forward, and they like their position right now, at least a couple days out from this decision. So as of today, I'm recording this right now. It's Tuesday, April 29th. I'm recording it a little bit earlier because of my schedule this week. I had to get this done right now instead of waiting until like Wednesday or Thursday. So we're a little less than a week out from this decision. But as of right now, 6:09 p.m., April 29th, 2025, I am predicting that Kirby Smart and company will win, again, what I believe could be arguably the biggest recruitment in the Kirby Smart era, and Jared Curtis will commit to the G. That's my prediction. Now, let me give you a couple reasons why, beyond just seeing what Steve Wiltfong and Chad Simmons are saying out there and talking to some people that I know here around Athens. But the three big things that I keep coming back to. Number one, he was once upon a time committed to only one of these schools. He has never been committed to Oregon. I know it was a while ago, but he was committed to the University of Georgia at one point. And I keep going back to this. There was a reason why he committed to Georgia back in March of last year. It wasn't like he wasn't on everyone's radar back then. He was just as highly coveted back then as he is right now, all right? And there was a reason why we were that initial choice. I think that matters. I think those reasons are still there. Now, has Oregon given him other things to think about? Absolutely. Dan Lenning is an ace recruiter. That guy is a straight up pro. He's awesome. They're heavily financed there. We know the Nike money, all of that. But I keep going back to the fact that he committed to Georgia over a year ago for a reason. And I have to believe those reasons have not just dissipated into thin air. They are still there. Kirby Smart is still in Athens. He still runs his program the same way. We are still winning championships, which was further reinforced in December of this year when we won the SEC championship with a backup quarterback, right? That matters. So I will lean on that as a major reason. Number two, proximity to home. This is a Nashville kid. Oregon is a long way away up in the Pacific Northwest. Oregon's a beautiful country, baby. I know he's been up there, and I'm sure he loved what he saw, but that's a long trip, man. And look, I know that the age of NIL, he's gonna have plenty of money. He'll probably get a private jet company, probably like Wheels Up or something, will probably have a sponsorship deal with him, and he'll probably be able to fly his family up there, sure. But it's not just the money. The money's not gonna be the problem. He's gonna have NIL money to spend. It's just the sheer convenience of it. Georgia is just way more convenient for not just him, but his family, his entire family, to get to games to watch him play. They still have lives too, right? Flying up to Oregon every week and then flying all those it's not just Oregon. Think about the Big Ten schools he's going to have to play if you go to Oregon. You get to fly out potentially USC, fly out to UCLA, fly up to maybe you're going to Rutgers, right? Fly up to Minnesota potentially. It's not just the trips for the home games. It's the trips everywhere we'd have to go. if he comes to Georgia, Georgia is closer, Athens is closer, and then most of the schools that we're playing in the Southeast will be closer to them. Like when we play, I don't know, Tennessee, when we play Vanderbilt, all those schools are a lot closer. I think that matters as well. It's just a convenience factor, not just for him, but his entire family. And that, I do think that matters, guys. Is that would that in isolation be enough to convince him to come to Georgia? Probably not, but it certainly has to be a factor there. And then number 3, and this is where all you Mike Bobo haters, you might want to close your ears. Put those earplugs in for a minute here, guys, because Mike Bobo has been one of the driving forces behind Georgia's recruitment of Jared Curtis. And that's the thing about Bobo, guys. I know a lot of people want to criticize him for play calling and like whatever. I don't want to go off the deep end on that. That's something we'll talk about for another day. We'll talk about it playing. We'll talk more about that, I'm sure, in the future. Believe what you want to believe about Bobo in terms of play calling and running an offense. But the dude is and always has been an elite recruiter. That's part of coaching, guys, at the college level. Yeah, calling plays, offensive coordinator, that's important too. I think he gets way too much grief for that. He's not perfect, but I think the criticism of him is way overblown there. But you cannot call this guy out for his recruiting. This dude gets after it on the recruiting show. Even going back to the Mark Richt era, this dude was the best recruiter on staff for Georgia during the Mark Richt era, and he is still a stud recruiter, and that's a part of the job. I will tell you this, without Mike Bobo on this coaching staff, we are not still in the Jared Curtis sweepstakes. Jared Curtis loves the guy. They have built an incredibly close relationship. And it's not just Curtis. His entire family has built a very, very close relationship with Mike Bobo. If you read any of the interviews that anyone in the Curtis family has done, whether it's Jared himself, whether it's mom, dad, whoever, they all bring up Mike Bobo and they all gush about the guy, talk about how much they love him and how much of a factor he is in this recruitment. So I know not everyone loves him. I know he has some faults, okay? Like I can at least admit that. But he is a big-time factor of why we are still in this recruitment. The fact that he is still Georgia's offensive coordinator. You might hate that fact going into 2025 season, but you might appreciate it if it ultimately ends up resulting in us landing Jared Curtis. So Bobo is actually going to be in home with Curtis twice this week. He's meeting home Wednesday and on Sunday. Oregon, Will Stein, the offensive coordinator, will be in there on Sunday. I know he's trying to get back in there earlier this week as well. But again, that's just the convenience of us being able to get to Nashville. We will see him face-to-face twice this week, the guy he's built an incredible relationship with. So that's another factor behind this decision. Now, one bonus factor here behind my prediction is the quarterback situation here at Georgia, okay? Gunnar Stockton, I told you earlier this week, is going to be the guy at quarterback for Georgia this year. I like Ryan Puglisi. I think he's going to be a good player. I think he's a talented guy. But Gunnar is the guy right now. But as much as I like Gunnar, as much as I'm starting to believe in Gunnar as our QB1, I also recognize that Gunner's not going. I think it would be. I shouldn't speak in absolutes. I don't like speaking in absolutes. I find it highly unlikely that Gunner will be leaving early for the NFL draft after this year. He would be draft eligible. I just don't know. I think Gunner has a chance to be a really, really good college quarterback. NFL remains to be seen. I don't want to completely say he can't do it. We need to see more on the field, but I have my doubts about his future in the NFL. So I believe that Gunner will be our quarterback for the next 2 years, okay? Now, I know that means that Jared Curtis would have to come next year and sit as a true freshman. A lot of these guys, they do want to play as a true freshman. But I actually think this would be in Georgia's best interest for Gunner to stay for the 2026 season. Because if Gunner stays 2025 and 2026, he's our starting quarterback. What that would mean is that when Jared Curtis comes into Athens, he has a year to sit and learn, soak up the offense, get up to speed with how we do things, get up to speed with practice, all that. And then the 2027 season, which would be his redshirt freshman year, then it would be an all-out battle between him and Ryan Puglisi, most likely, right? You can throw in Ryan Montgomery in there as well, okay? And maybe even Hesdy Millender. Maybe he'll develop by then and he'll be in the conversation. But here's why that matters. The quarterback depth chart plays out perfectly because none of those guys, if Gunner stays healthy and plays in 2025 and 26 for Georgia, Puglisi, Montgomery, Millender, none of them would have any starting experience. He would not have to beat out an incumbent starter, right? A little bit, remember the Justin Fields situation in 2018? Justin Fields was highly recruited, right? But the quarterback depth chart was not advantageous. Now, he just thought he was better than Jake Fromm and come in and beat him out, but it's tougher than you think to come in and beat out an incumbent starter, especially one that has been successful. Jared Curtis likely will not face that reality here in Athens if Gunner stays next 2 years, which I believe that he will. So I know that Montgomery and Puglisi will have more experience in the system here in our program, but having that redshirt year to sit and learn and grow and develop will allow him to catch up and mitigate that experience edge that maybe Puglisi has and Montgomery has, because they don't have the edge on the field. So I do think our quarterback depth chart is also a factor here. That matters. These guys, why are some guys transferring, right? Why are all these top guys transferring from their original school? Well, different reasons for different players. Obviously, crazy situation with Nico Imaliava, but the other guys, they're not willing to wait. They didn't win the job right away. They want to go elsewhere. They want to start. Arch Manning is the exception. But if you ask him to wait 1 year, I imagine Curtis will be willing to wait 1 year. If that means going into his redshirt freshman year, he's got a legitimate shot to challenge for that quarterback job, that QB1 job, and there's no incumbent starter that he has to contend against. I really do think that matters. So there's another bonus reason why I am right now predicting, less than a week out, that Jared Curtis, the number 1 quarterback in all of America, the number 6 prospect overall in the all-3 industry rankings, I think he's only going to go up from here, will commit to the G on Monday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. And of course, guys, whatever way that decision goes, whether he commits to the G, whether he ends up going to Oregon, we will come back here next week. We'll have you guys covered. We'll have an episode exactly on that decision. Hopefully it's good news. Hopefully we'll be celebrating next Monday. But whatever way it goes, we will have you guys covered. But I want to make sure that we get on here and preview that decision because a lot of you guys have been asking me, and it's, I don't know, kind of a big deal. You're talking about Georgia being a finalist for one of the top quarterbacks in the entire country, potentially one of the biggest recruiting wins in Georgia in the Kirby Smart era. Last thing I'll leave you with here, I'm predicting him to come to Georgia. The one thing that does concern me is the Nike money. The late offer rolling in, the last second, he's leaning towards Georgia, maybe tells the Oregon coach staff, hey, I'm coming to Georgia. Like, hey, before you officially make that decision, we got one more offer for you. That is a thought in the back of my mind. NIL, it's a crazy world. We'll see what happens. But as of right now, I feel good. I know that our NIL offer, I don't know what it is exactly, but it's competitive. Like we are going at this recruitment. We are not going to allow the money to be a factor. At least that's what it seems like right now. So yeah, right now, let's call it a 50.01% confidence prediction that Jared Curtis will land with the Georgia Bulldogs on Monday. But all right, guys, thank you so much for being here. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. If you haven't already, again, go ahead and subscribe to the channel right now. Get that conversation started. Love to hear your thoughts on my prediction with Jared Curtis. Do you agree with me? Do you think he's going to commit to Georgia? Do you disagree? Do you think the money's going to be too much to pass up from Oregon? Let me know. Love to hear from you guys. Like, subscribe, comment, all that. And check out the Glory UGA podcast for full episodes of our show wherever you get your pods. But for now, I'm Tyler. And as always, go Dogs!
Man, is there going to be some property destroyed tonight. 26-21. Dogs on top.